Once upon a time, in the enchanting halls of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, there lived a house elf named Tilly. Tilly, with her large bat-like ears and twinkling brown eyes, was no ordinary house elf. She was known among her peers for her boundless energy and her ever-present smile, which could light up even the gloomiest of dungeons. Tilly's day began before the first rays of dawn kissed the sky. She would wake up in the cozy quarters provided for the house elves hidden away in the depths of the castle. With a stretch and a yawn, Tilly would don her neatly patched pillowcase dress, her badge of service, and prepare for the day ahead. Her first task was to tend to the fires in the many hearths of Hogwarts. With a snap of her fingers, flames would dance merrily in the fireplaces, casting a warm glow that welcomed students and staff alike as they awoke. Tilly took great pride in this task, knowing the comfort it brought on chilly mornings. Next, Tilly would hurry to the kitchens, where a symphony of scents and sounds awaited her. Alongside the other house elves, she would help prepare the vast breakfast feast that awaited the students every morning. Tilly had a special talent for baking and would often be found conjuring the fluffiest of scones and the most delectable pastries, which would disappear from the plates almost as soon as they arrived at the tables above. After breakfast, Tilly's tasks would vary from day to day. Some days, she would be in charge of tidying the common rooms, where she would carefully pick up forgotten quills and straighten lopsided portraits, all the while dodging mischievous enchantments left by the students. Other days, she might be found in the library, dusting ancient tomes and organizing scrolls, occasionally pausing to listen to the whispers of history that echoed through the shelves. Tilly also had the important job of preparing the classrooms for lessons. She would ensure that each room was perfectly arranged according to the professor's preferences, from Professor Flitwick's choir of singing frogs to the precise alignment of cauldrons in Professor Snape's dungeon. Tilly worked her magic silently and efficiently, invisible to most but integral to the smooth running of Hogwarts. But it wasn't all work for Tilly. She found joy in the small things, the way the sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, the laughter of students echoing in the halls, and the quiet moments she shared with her fellow house elves who had become like family to her. Tilly loved Hogwarts with all her heart, and she took pride in knowing that her work helped make it a home for everyone who lived there. Within the grand tale of Tilly's daily adventures at Hogwarts, there lies a particularly delightful anecdote involving none other than the stern and imposing Professor Severus Snape, and a surprise encounter that would become one of Tilly's fondest memories. One brisk autumn evening, as Tilly was bustling about, ensuring the potions classroom was in impeccable order for the next day's lessons, she noticed a peculiar sight. Professor Snape standing before his private stores, a look of utter bewilderment on his face. The usually unflappable professor seemed to have misplaced the key to his precious ingredients cupboard. Now Tilly, ever so helpful, knew the castle like the back of her hand, and keys, especially those as important as the one to Snape's stores, had a way of making themselves known to her. With a quiet giggle, she snapped her fingers, and the key appeared in the air, spinning gently before coming to rest in her outstretched hand. Approaching Professor Snape with cautious steps, Tilly offered the key with a polite bow, her eyes twinkling with mirth. "I believe this belongs to you, Professor Snape, sir," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The formidable potions master looked down at the tiny house elf, his usual scowl deepening, but then, to Tilly's great surprise, the corners of his mouth twitched in what could only be described as a reluctant smile, a rare sight indeed. "Thank you, Tilly," he muttered, taking the key from her small hand. "Your efficiency is most appreciated." As Snape turned to unlock his cupboard, Tilly couldn't help the proud smile that spread across her face. She had managed to bring a moment of light to the dark corridors of the dungeon, and even Snape, with his imposing demeanor, had acknowledged her help. But the story doesn't end there. The next day, as Tilly was tidying up the potions classroom after a particularly explosive lesson, she found a small vial left on her pillow back in her quarters. It was a rare potion that made cleaning a breeze, cutting her work time in half. There was no note, but Tilly knew well enough who it was from. Snape had his own unique way of expressing gratitude. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, signaling the end of another day, her tasks done, she would curl up in her little bed, surrounded by the soft snores of her fellow house elves, and as she drifted off to sleep, she would dream of the adventures of the day, the smiles she had seen, and the magic that filled every corner of Hogwarts. So, dear listener, as you close your eyes and drift off to your own magical dreams, remember Tilly, the little house elf whose heart was as big as Hogwarts itself. May her story remind you of the joy found in helping others, the beauty in the everyday, and the magic that resides in all of us. Good night, Tilly, and good night to you too. May your dreams be filled with the warmth of hearth fires, the sweetness of scones, and the endless wonder of Hogwarts.